My sister mocked my simple life, then found out I was secretly wealthy. I'm a 34-year-old guy, and I need to get this off my chest because the last few months have been absolutely insane. This is going to be long, so buckle up. Let me start by giving you some context about my family dynamic. I'm the youngest of three siblings. My older brother Mark, 38M, is a corporate lawyer married to his college sweetheart, living in the suburbs with their two kids. Then there's my sister Jessica, 36F, who works in marketing and is married to Devin, a real estate agent. They live in what I can only describe as a McMansion that's mortgaged to the hilt. Growing up, I was always the weird one. While Mark was captain of the debate team and Jessica was homecoming queen, I was the kid who spent weekends taking apart computers and reading programming books. My parents loved us all equally, but there was definitely a sense that I was the oddball who didn't quite fit the family mold of traditional success. After high school, I went to a state university for computer science. Nothing fancy, but it had a solid program. My siblings, meanwhile, went to expensive private schools that my parents helped pay for. I didn't mind. I was actually happy to stay closer to home and graduate without crushing debt. After college, I got a job at a small tech startup in 2013. The pay was mediocre, about 55K a year, but they offered equity. My family thought I was making a mistake. Jessica especially was vocal about it. You have a computer science degree from State U and you're working at some no-name company nobody's heard of, she'd say at family dinners. Mark's friend's son just got a job at Google. Why didn't you apply there? I tried explaining that I believed in what we were building, that the equity could be worth something someday, but she'd just roll her eyes. Equity in a startup. That's just monopoly money until it isn't. You're gambling with your career. Meanwhile, Jessica and Devin were buying their first house, a nice three-bedroom in a good school district. She made sure everyone knew about every upgrade, every piece of furniture, every detail. Family gatherings became shows where she'd pull out her phone and scroll through photos of their latest renovation. I lived in a small one-bedroom apartment that cost $850 a month. I drove a 2006 Honda Civic that I'd bought used. I shopped at Costco, cooked my own meals, and my idea of a splurge was buying the nice beer instead of the cheap stuff. The comparison game. For years, Jessica made comments, always little digs, delivered with a smile, but digs nonetheless. At Thanksgiving, "Oh, you're still at that startup. I thought those either made it big or failed within a few years. How long has it been now?" At Christmas, "We got Mark a nice watch this year. For you, we figured something practical made more sense." It was a set of kitchen towels. At my mom's birthday, "It's so nice that you can make it to these things. I know Devin and I are so busy with the house and our social obligations, but you have so much free time." The implication was always clear. I was the loser sibling who hadn't amounted to much. I had a job anyone could have. I lived in a crappy apartment, drove an old car, and didn't seem to have any ambition. Here's the thing, though. None of that bothered me. I liked my life. I liked my job. I was working on interesting problems with smart people. I had friends, hobbies, and zero financial stress because I lived well below my means. I just didn't feel the need to broadcast every detail of my life on social media or turn family dinners into personal highlight reels. Things really ramped up 2 years ago when I started dating my now girlfriend, Sarah. Sarah's a teacher, and she's the most genuine, kind person I've ever met. She didn't care that I lived modestly or drove an old car. We'd go on hikes, cook dinner together, and just enjoy each other's company. The first time I brought her to a family dinner, I could see Jessica sizing her up. After dinner, when Sarah was in the bathroom, Jessica pulled me aside. "She seems nice," Jessica said in that tone that made it clear she didn't think Sarah was nice at all. "What does she do?" "She's a third-grade teacher." Jessica's face did this weird thing where she tried to smile but couldn't quite manage it. That's sweet, very noble. I'm sure you two are happy with your simple life. Over the next year, the comments continued. When are you two going to buy a house? Or are you going to rent forever? Sarah must be so understanding about your financial situation. Not every woman would be okay with dating someone who's still figuring things out in their 30s. Devin and I are planning a trip to Italy this summer. Where are you and Sarah going? Oh, camping. That sounds fun. Sarah noticed, of course. She'd ask me why I let Jessica talk to me like that. Honestly, I didn't have a great answer except that it wasn't worth the drama. Jessica had always been like this, and getting into arguments at family gatherings would just make things worse. But here's what none of them knew. Remember that startup I joined in 2013? Well, we'd been growing. Steadily, quietly, but definitely growing. By 2016, we were profitable. By 2018, we were looking at acquisition offers. In 2020, we were acquired by a major tech company for a sum that made national news in the tech world, though my family apparently doesn't follow tech news. My equity stake, which I'd been accumulating for 7 years, was suddenly worth a lot of money. Like, a lot of money. After taxes, I cleared about $8.3 million. I didn't tell anyone except Sarah. Not my parents, not my siblings, nobody. Why? A few reasons. I'd watched enough stories about lottery winners and people who came into money to know that telling people changes relationships forever. I genuinely enjoyed my simple life. The money didn't change what made me happy. I wanted to be smart about it and not make impulsive decisions. Honestly, a petty part of me enjoyed knowing the truth while Jessica continued her commentary. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I met with a financial advisor, invested most of it conservatively, kept working. I stayed on with the acquiring company for 2 years before quietly retiring at 32, and continued living exactly as I had before. Well, mostly, I did upgrade a few things. Bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a nice but not flashy neighborhood. Paid cash, but told everyone I got a mortgage. Replaced my old Civic with a 3-year-old Toyota Camry. Practical, reliable, boring. Started contributing to charities quietly. Set up college funds for my future nieces and nephews, including Mark's kids. But I still shopped at Costco, still cooked at home most nights, still wore jeans and t-shirts. To everyone else, I was just a guy who'd finally gotten a slightly better paying job and managed to buy a small house. Jessica's reaction to the house was predictable. Well, it's a start. Give it a few years and you might be able to afford something in our neighborhood. Though I have to say, that area you bought in is getting a bit run down. But it's good you're building equity. When COVID hit, I was actually grateful for my situation. I'd retired from my job just a few months earlier, telling everyone I was doing freelance consulting, which I did occasionally for fun. While everyone else was stressed about work-from-home situations and job security, I spent the lockdown learning to make sourdough, taking online courses, and spending quality time with Sarah. Jessica, meanwhile, was constantly stressed. She'd gotten used to a lifestyle that required both her and Devin's incomes, and Devin's real estate business took a hit in 2020. They were fine. They both kept their jobs, but the financial pressure was clearly getting to them. At a socially distanced outdoor family gathering in summer 2020, Jessica actually said to me, "You're so lucky you don't have real financial responsibilities. Devin and I are drowning in mortgage payments and the kids' activities. You don't understand stress until you have a mortgage and property taxes and HOA fees." I just nodded and said something about how my little house was manageable. In December 2022, I proposed to Sarah. Nothing crazy. I took her on a hike to our favorite spot and proposed with a ring I'd carefully selected. It wasn't a massive rock because Sarah isn't that kind of person, but it was a high-quality, beautiful ring from a jeweler who does custom work. At Christmas, when Sarah showed everyone her ring, Jessica's eyes widened. Wow, that's actually really nice. Must have cost you, what, 2 months' salary? Something like that, I said, smiling. What I didn't say. It cost $18,000, which wouldn't have been possible on the salary she thought I was making. But the jeweler wasn't a big name, and unless you knew jewelry, you wouldn't necessarily know its value. Jessica recovered quickly. Well, I guess everyone has their priorities. Devin spent way more on my ring, but then again, he's always been generous. Sarah and I got married in September 2023. We talked about what kind of wedding we wanted, and we both agreed on something relatively simple. A nice venue, good food, our closest friends and family, but nothing over the top. The venue we chose was a beautiful restored barn on a vineyard. All-inclusive package, really well-reviewed, and the photos online were gorgeous. We booked it, and I wrote a check for the $45,000 deposit without blinking. When we told the family about the venue, Jessica looked it up online. I saw her face change as she scrolled through their pricing information. At the next family dinner, she pulled me aside. That venue you booked, do you know how much it costs? Yeah, we got their pricing sheet. And you can afford that. We saved up, I said, which was technically true. The money was in savings. She looked skeptical but didn't push it. I could see the wheels turning in her head, though. The wedding itself was beautiful. We paid for everything ourselves. Ceremony, reception, flowers, photographer, videographer, a band, open bar, the works. We treated our guests well and everyone had an amazing time. Total cost, about $78,000. Jessica spent the entire reception looking confused. At one point, she cornered Sarah near the dessert table. "This is a beautiful wedding," Jessica said. "Really beautiful. You two must have saved for a long time." "We're just happy everyone could make it," Sarah replied, deflecting like a pro. After the wedding, Jessica started asking more questions. She asked my mom if they'd helped pay for the wedding. They hadn't. She asked Mark if he'd loaned me money. He hadn't. She tried to figure out the math and couldn't make it work. For our honeymoon, Sarah and I went to New Zealand for 3 weeks. We'd both always wanted to go, and we did it right. Business class flights, nice hotels, tour, activities, the whole experience. We weren't flashy about it, but we also didn't deprive ourselves. I made a mistake, though. I posted a photo from our hotel balcony overlooking Queenstown. It was a gorgeous shot, and I didn't think much of it. But Jessica apparently did some research and figured out which hotel we were staying at. When we got back, she called me. Not texted, called, which she never did. "Hey, welcome back. How was the trip?" "It was amazing. New Zealand is incredible. I saw your photos. You stayed at the Matakori Lodge." "Yeah, it was beautiful. That place costs like $2,000 a night." "We got a deal," I lied, "package thing. For 3 weeks. We stayed at different places. That was just a few nights for our anniversary celebration." She didn't sound convinced, but she let it go, for the moment. The crumbling facade. Over the next few months, I think Jessica started paying more attention. She noticed things. I'd casually mention doing some freelance consulting that paid well. Sarah and I went to several nice restaurants for special occasions. I'd bought a newer car, nothing fancy, but it was brand new, not used. We'd taken a long weekend in Napa. Our house, while modest, was in an area that had appreciated significantly. Then, last April, something happened that I didn't anticipate. My mom needed a medical procedure that wasn't fully covered by insurance. The out-of-pocket cost was going to be about $25,000. My parents had the money, but it would wipe out a significant chunk of their retirement savings. At a family dinner where they broke the news, Mark immediately offered to chip in $10,000. Jessica said she and Devin could probably manage $3,000, but things were tight because of some house issues they were dealing with. I said I'd cover the rest. Everyone looked at me. "What do you mean you'll cover the rest?" Jessica asked. "I mean I'll cover the remaining $12,000. Or honestly, let me just cover the whole thing. Mark, keep your money. Jessica, you too." The room went silent. "You can't afford that," Jessica said flatly. "I can, actually." "On what freelance consulting?" "I do well with the consulting." "Nobody does that well consulting. What are you really doing? Did you take out a loan?" My dad intervened. "Jessica, if your brother says he can help, let him help." I wrote a check to the medical center the next day. The full $25,000. 2 days later, Jessica showed up at my house unannounced. Sarah was at work, so it was just me. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into my living room. "Hello to you too. Cut the crap. Where did you get $25,000 to just give away?" "I told you I've been consulting. It pays well." "Nobody makes that kind of money consulting unless they're a former executive or something. You worked at a startup that got acquired, sure, but you were just a regular employee. So where is this money actually coming from?" I'd been dreading this conversation, but also kind of looking forward to it. The charade was exhausting, and a petty part of me wanted to see her face when she realized the truth. "I wasn't just a regular employee," I said calmly. "I was one of the first 10 employees. I had significant equity." "Equity that you said was worthless." "I never said it was worthless. You said it was worthless. I said it might be worth something someday." She stared at me. "How much are we talking?" "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters. I've spent years." She stopped herself. "You've spent years what? Mocking me, treating me like I was the family failure." "I wasn't." "You absolutely were, Jess. Every family gathering, every holiday, every phone call. Little comments about my job, my apartment, my car, my life choices. You made it clear you thought I was a loser who'd never amount to anything." She had the decency to look embarrassed, for about 5 seconds. "Okay, fine, maybe I made some jokes, but you let us all think you were barely scraping by. You could have said something." "Why would I? So you could treat me differently. So you could suddenly be nice to me because I have money. That would have been so much better, right?" "I'm your sister." "Exactly. You're my sister. You should have treated me with respect regardless of how much money you thought I had." She sat down on my couch, processing. "How much did you make from the acquisition?" I debated not telling her, but honestly at this point, what did it matter? "After taxes, about $8.3 million. Her jaw actually dropped. Million with an M. "Yes." "When?" "Almost 4 years ago." "And you didn't tell anyone?" "I told Sarah, that's it." "Mom and Dad don't know?" "Nope." She looked around my house, my nice but not extravagant house, and I could see her recalculating everything. "So when you bought this house?" "Cash." "The wedding?" "I paid for it without blinking." "The honeymoon?" "We stayed in the nicest places and did everything we wanted to do." "The car?" "I could have bought something much nicer. I bought what I wanted." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I can't believe you didn't tell us." "Why would I? What would have changed except that you'd all treat me differently?" "We wouldn't have." "Yes, you would have. You'd have either been weird about it or you'd have started expecting things, or both. This was easier." "Easier? You've been lying to us for 4 years." "I haven't lied about anything. I just didn't tell you about my financial situation, which is personal and frankly none of your business." She sat there, visibly upset, and I actually felt a little bad, but only a little. Finally she said, "Are you going to tell Mom and Dad?" "Eventually, maybe. I haven't decided." "They should know we're family." We are family, which is why you should have treated me better before you knew I had money. She left shortly after that, and I honestly thought that might be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next week, several things happened. Jessica told Devin, obviously. Jessica told Mark. Mark called me to confirm it was true. Mark was actually cool about it. His reaction was basically, "Good for you, man, that's awesome. I get why you didn't say anything." Jessica and Devin were decidedly not cool about it. My mom called and asked if we could all have dinner at her and Dad's place. Family meeting, she called it, which was never a good sign. I brought Sarah for moral support. When we arrived, everyone was already there. Mom, Dad, Mark and his wife, and Jessica and Devin. Mom started. "Jessica tells us you came into some money from your old job." "Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, when the company was acquired, my equity ended up being worth a significant amount. And you didn't tell us because. Because it didn't change anything. I'm still me. I still live the life I want to live. I just have financial security now." Dad asked the obvious question. "How much are we talking about, son?" "About $8 million after taxes. I've invested most of it conservatively." My mom gasped. My dad's eyes widened. Mark's wife whispered, "Holy shit," under her breath. Jessica jumped in. "And he's been hiding it for 4 years. Living in that little house, driving normal cars, letting us all think he was just getting by." "I wasn't hiding it," I said calmly. "I was living my life. I didn't and don't owe anyone an explanation of my financial situation." Devin, who'd been quiet until now, spoke up. "But we're family. Family doesn't keep secrets like this." "It's not a secret," Sarah said, her voice firm. "It's private information. There's a difference." "Stay out of this," Jessica snapped at her. "Don't talk to my wife that way," I said, my voice hard. Mom intervened. "Everyone calm down. Let's discuss this like adults." But Jessica wasn't done. "Do you know how insulting this is? We've spent years worrying about you, thinking you were struggling, and you were secretly a millionaire the whole time." "You weren't worried about me," I said. "You were judging me. There's a difference. You didn't make comments about my life because you were concerned. You made them because you thought you were better than me." "That's not fair, isn't it? Think about every comment you've made over the last decade. Every dig about my job, my apartment, my car, my choices. You weren't worried. You were condescending." The room got very quiet. My dad, ever the peacemaker, tried to smooth things over. "I think we're all just surprised. It's a lot to process. But we're happy for you, son, truly." "Thank you, Dad." Then Devin said something that made my blood boil. "So, are you going to help out the family now that we know?" Everyone looked at him. Even Jessica looked uncomfortable. "Excuse me," I said. "Well, you have all this money. Family helps family, right? Jess and I have been struggling with the mortgage. Mark's kids need college funds. Your parents could use some help for retirement." "I've already set up college funds for Mark's kids," I said. "Did it 2 years ago. Anonymous trust. Mark, you'll get the details from the trustee when the kids turn 16. Mark looked shocked. "You, what?" $100,000 each. Should cover most of their education costs." Mark looked like he might cry. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. They're good kids and education is important." Jessica looked angry. "See, you have been hiding things. What else haven't you told us?" "I set up a fund for your kids too," I said. "Same deal. $100,000 each." She blinked. "What?" "Did it at the same time I did it for Mark's kids. They're my nieces and nephews. I want them to have opportunities." She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once she had nothing to say. Devin, however, did. "That's great and all, but what about us? The actual adults who are struggling right now." "What about you?" I asked. "Well, like I said, we're dealing with some financial pressure. If you could help with even a portion of the mortgage for a while, it would. No. The single word hung in the air. No, Jessica said. No, I'm not giving you money for your mortgage. But you just said family helps family. I help family when they need it. You don't need it, you want it. There's a difference. Our mortgage is $4,800 a month, Devin said, his voice rising. Plus HOA fees, property taxes, the cars. Then sell the house, I said simply. Downsize, get something you can actually afford. We can't sell, Jessica said. We'd barely break even after the mortgage and realtor fees. That sounds like a you problem. You bought more house than you could afford, and that's on you. I can't believe you're being so selfish, Jessica said, her voice shrill. You have millions just sitting there and you won't help your own sister. I'm not being selfish. I'm refusing to subsidize your lifestyle choices. You make good money, Jessica. Both of you do. If you're struggling, it's because you're living beyond your means. You don't understand the pressure we're under. You're right, I don't. Because I chose to live below my means, save my money, and not buy things I couldn't afford just to impress people. Sarah squeezed my hand under the table. My parents looked uncomfortable. Mark was staring at his plate. Devin stood up. We don't need this. Come on, Jess. Sit down, my dad said, his voice stern. We're not done here. Devin sat, but he looked furious. My mom spoke up. I think what everyone's trying to say, honey, is that we're family. And when one member of the family is blessed with good fortune, it's natural to want to share that with the people you love. I understand that, Mom, and I do share. I paid for your medical procedure. I set up funds for the kids. I've donated to charities. I help where I see actual need. But I'm not going to bankroll Jessica and Devin's McMansion because they want to keep up with their neighbors. It's not about keeping up with anyone, Jessica protested. It's our home. A home you can't afford. That's not my responsibility. We argued for another 30 minutes. Jessica cried. Devin looked murderous. Mark tried to stay neutral. My parents tried to keep the peace. Sarah sat quietly beside me, a rock of support. Finally, I'd had enough. Here's the bottom line, I said, standing up. I'm not going to apologize for having money, and I'm not going to apologize for not telling you about it sooner. I'm also not going to fund anyone's lifestyle. I'll help with genuine emergencies and I'll invest in the family's future, which I've already done with the college funds. But I'm not an ATM, and I'm not going to be treated like one. I took Sarah's hand. We're leaving. Mom, Dad, thank you for dinner, even though we barely ate. Mark, I'll call you this week. Jessica, Devin, I hope you figure out your situation. We left. The next few weeks were rough. Jessica didn't speak to me. She posted vague things on Facebook about fake people and family betrayal that were clearly about me. Devin apparently told their friends a one-sided version of the story, and I started getting messages from people I barely knew about how money changes people. Mark, to his credit, called me a few days later. That college fund thing, I don't even know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me, just raise good kids, which you're already doing. For what it's worth, I think you handled everything right. Jess and Devin, they're dealing with a lot, but that's not on you. Thanks, man, that means a lot. My parents were more conflicted. My mom called and gently suggested that maybe I could help Jessica just a little to keep the peace. I held firm. My dad understood my position but clearly wished the whole situation would just go away. Sarah was amazing through all of it. I'm proud of you for setting boundaries, she said one night as we sat on our back porch. A lot of people would have caved. I just don't want to set a precedent, you know. If I give them money now, where does it end? It doesn't, that's the point. About a month after the big family dinner, things got worse. Jessica and Devin showed up at our house again, unannounced. This time, Devin did most of the talking. Look, we've been thinking, he started. Maybe we came at this wrong before. We're not asking for a handout. We're asking for a loan. A loan, I repeated. Right, we borrow, say, $100,000. We use it to pay down some of the mortgage, maybe consolidate some debt. We'll pay you back with interest. Business transaction between family members. And if you can't pay me back, we will. But if you can't, what then? It becomes a gift. Or do I foreclose on you? Either way, the relationship is ruined. Jessica tried a different approach. Remember when we were kids and I used to help you with your homework, or when I drove you to school when mom and dad couldn't, or when I... Are you seriously trying to guilt trip me by bringing up things you did 20 years ago? Things siblings normally do for each other. I'm saying that family supports each other. You're saying you did normal sibling things and now you think I owe you $100,000. That's insane, Jessica. They tried for another hour. Bargaining, pleading, guilt-tripping, everything short of getting on their knees. I said no to all of it. Finally, Devin played what he clearly thought was his trump card. You know, we could tell everyone. All your old friends, people from high school, everyone on social media. We could let everyone know you're sitting on millions while your family struggles. I actually laughed. Go ahead, tell everyone. You think I care. You think the opinion of people I barely remember from high school matters to me. People will think you're a terrible person. People I don't know and don't care about might think I'm a terrible person. I can live with that. They left angry, true to their word. Devin made a post on Facebook about how I was a millionaire who refused to help my struggling sister. Some people from high school commented with supportive messages to him. Some people defended me. Mostly, people I actually cared about reached out privately to ask if I was okay. I deleted Facebook the next day. Should have done it years ago anyway. 2 months after the initial reveal, my mom called and asked if I'd come to Sunday dinner. Just me, no Sarah this time. She wanted to talk to me privately. When I arrived, Jessica was there. Of course she was. This is an ambush, I said. It's not an ambush, my mom said. It's an intervention. An intervention for what? Having money and boundaries. For being stubborn, Jessica said. Look, I'm sorry about how I acted before. Really, I am. I was shocked and I handled it badly. But we're family and family doesn't let family suffer. You're not suffering. You're experiencing the consequences of your own financial decisions. My mom jumped in. Your sister and Devin are talking about bankruptcy. Their marriage is under strain. If you could just help them out of this hole, they could get back on their feet. And then what? They get back on their feet and immediately make the same mistakes, buy things they can't afford, live a lifestyle they can't sustain. And when they get in trouble again, what then? I bail them out again. It wouldn't be like that, Jessica said, but she didn't sound convincing. It would be exactly like that. Jess, I love you. You're my sister. But you need to learn this lesson the hard way. Downsize, budget, live within your means. Stop trying to impress people who don't care about you. Easy for you to say when you're loaded. I was loaded when I lived in that tiny apartment and drove that old Civic. The money didn't change how I lived. That's the point you're missing. We went round and round for another hour. My mom cried, Jessica cried, I held firm. As I was leaving, my mom hugged me and whispered, I'm disappointed in you. That hurt, not gonna lie, but I still didn't change my mind. 3 months ago, I got a call from Jessica. She sounded different, tired, but not angry. Can we talk, just you and me? We met at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. She looked exhausted. We're selling the house, she said. Okay. We found a smaller place. 3 bedrooms instead of 5. Normal yard instead of half an acre. Mortgage will be $2,400 a month instead of $4,800. That sounds more manageable. Devin fought me on it. We almost got divorced over it. But I finally made him see that we couldn't keep living like that. I'm sorry you went through that. I'm sorry too for a lot of things. She looked down at her coffee. You were right about all of it. I did judge you. I did think I was better than you because I had the bigger house and the nicer car and the whatever. And when I found out you had more money than all of us combined, I felt stupid and embarrassed and angry. I know, but mostly I was angry at myself because you offered me something I didn't know I needed, an example of living within your means and being happy. And I rejected it because it didn't look like what I thought success was supposed to look like. This was the most honest Jessica had been with me in years, maybe ever. I appreciate you saying that. I don't expect you to give us money. I'm not here to ask for that. I just wanted you to know that I get it now. And I'm sorry for how I treated you. All those years of comments and digs and making you feel less than. You deserved better, especially from your sister. Thank you, that actually means a lot. We talked for another hour. Really talked, like we hadn't since we were kids. She told me about the stress she'd been under, the pressure she'd put on herself to appear successful, the way she'd tied her self-worth to material things. I told her about the relief of living authentically, about how the money had given me freedom, but how I'd always had the freedom to choose happiness. When we left, she hugged me. For what it's worth, I think Sarah's great, and I think you guys have built something real. I'm sorry I didn't see it before. Thanks, Jess. It's been a few months since that conversation. Here's where everything ended up. Jessica and Devin sold their house. They moved into a smaller place that they can actually afford. She told me recently that the stress level in their marriage has decreased significantly. They're actually talking about taking a real vacation for the first time in years. Not an expensive one, just a week at a beach rental. She seems happier. Mark and I are closer than ever. He never asked for anything, never expected anything, and was just genuinely happy for me. His kids don't know about the college funds yet, but he and his wife are incredibly grateful. My parents came around. My dad actually apologized for the intervention dinner, said Mom had pressured him into it, but he knew it was wrong. Got you, let's land this properly and give it the calm, earned ending it deserves. My mom still thinks I could have handled things more gently, but she stopped pushing. Time helped. So did results. Once Jessica and Devin downsized, a few things became impossible to ignore. They weren't constantly stressed anymore. They stopped fighting about money every week. Devin stopped snapping at everyone. Jessica laughed more. Like, actually laughed, not that brittle, performative kind she used to do at family gatherings. A few months after they moved, my mom admitted something to me while we were doing dishes after dinner. I didn't realize how much pressure your sister was under, she said quietly. I thought the big house meant they were doing well. That's the trap, I replied. Looking successful isn't the same as being okay. She nodded. You always did march to your own beat. That was the closest she came to saying you were right, but I'll take it. What really changed things wasn't money, it was consistency. I didn't gloat, I didn't lecture, I didn't say I told you so even once. I just kept living the same way I always had. Same house, same car, same Costco runs, same jeans and t-shirts, same boundaries. And slowly people adjusted. Jessica stopped making comments about my simple life. Now she asks Sarah for sourdough tips and texts me photos of meals she cooked at home like it's an achievement. Devin is still Devin, but he's noticeably humbler. He doesn't bring up money anymore, ever. At one family dinner months later, Jessica caught herself mid-sentence and said, "Actually, never mind. That was one of my old digs, sorry." It was awkward, it was sincere, I appreciated it. Here's the thing that surprised me most through all of this. The money didn't change me, but it revealed everyone else. Mark showed me what quiet confidence and security look like. Sarah showed me what partnership and backbone look like. My parents showed me how hard it is for people to let go of old narratives. Jessica showed me how deeply insecurity can hide behind arrogance. And I learned something about myself too. I learned that boundaries feel cruel to people who benefited from you having none. I learned that being underestimated is sometimes a gift because it filters out people who only respect power, money, or status. And I learned that you don't owe anyone access to your life just because they share your last name. Where we are now, Sarah and I are doing great. We're talking about kids in a few years. Nothing flashy, just a good life, a peaceful one. I still donate quietly. I still help when there's a real need. I still believe money is a tool, not a personality trait. Jessica and I aren't best friends, but we're siblings again in a real way. Not competitors, not judges, just family. And no one mocks my simple life anymore. Because now they understand something they couldn't see before. I wasn't living small. I was living free. If you read this far, thanks. And if anyone needs to hear this, you don't need to look successful to be successful.